Good morning, everyone. Kyle, can you see the agenda?
Good morning. Yes, I can see the agenda. All right, we'll get started with the meeting. Can everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time, Melissa Hunsaker, our recording secretary, will take attendance.
Mr. Steve Holland,
Present.
Ms. Joy Beers,
Present.
Mr. Wayne Wentz,
Present.
That's coming into our budget. I believe it's around $20,000. So in reality, we have about $55,000 in our budget to get through, which, given the circumstances and the lack of budget for the spring, I think we're in pretty good shape. Do you know the exact amount, Ed?
Not off the top of my head, but you're pretty close with that figure.
Okay. So that'll be in added to the balance, and then that'll give us kind of what we have remaining to get through the end of June. We are likely to go over budget. We did anticipate that, given the lack of budgeted items this year's building and grounds, given the lack of spring funding that was provided.
Hey, Kyle?
Yes.
What's your guess for the overage? Just a guess to the nearest 10,000.
I'm not sure. I know we've really limited spending. A lot of it is going to be our utilities, which is, roughly 35 to 40,000. So we'll probably, I'm thinking 50 or 60,000 maybe go over.
Okay.
But that's just a guess. Again,
Understood. I'm not holding you to it. I'm just trying to kind of get my mind around what to expect. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
And Kyle, that figure was $22,188 that we were transferring in.
Okay, 22,180. So yeah, so that'll give us a budget of about 58,000 left in the balance. So I'm hoping to be less. We've really limited, obviously, because we knew our budget was going to be extremely tight. So the fact that we got this far and still have a balance, I think, is a testament to everybody involved. Because like I said, we weren't funded from March on, given the budget from last year. So the fact that we're in May and still have that amount of money left, to get us through, we should be fine getting through May, and then the month of June, we'll see where we are come that meeting, and we'll have a better understanding. Admin roof, Mr. Cleaver, if you could scroll down, there's three proposals. We had two engineering firms, Barry Isett and then Carbon Engineering, submit proposals. And then we also had a meeting with Tremco, which is on the state contract to provide services for the admin roof replacement. The Barry Isett quote for the engineering services is on page 3, right there. You can see the total amount, which is about 20,500. And then the carbon engineering study, which, if you could keep scrolling down, is on the page 3 at the top, which is 17,500 proposal for their engineering study, which outlines the, everything that incorporates for the roof replacement. And then, like I said, we met with Tremco, which is on the second page of their proposal. You could see their price is $6,750, and that includes, the construction and scope of the work, detailed specifications for shingle roof replacement, and then any additionals like rain gutters, etc., that would need to be replaced. Pre-job walk with approved contractor, conduct a pre-construction site visit with the school district as well as awarded contractor, and then in-progress site visit and field report, and then conduct a final inspection of the project after the completion.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle, can I ask a few questions just to kind of, once again,
Absolutely.
wrap my head around stuff? So, obviously you've had these in hand and you've studied them. Are basically all three of these proposals covering the same scope?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm glad you reached out to Tremco. I think that was something we talked about last time, since we've done work with them before. And quite frankly, like, having bid on projects myself and also having looked at other people's bids, this is actually where I would have expected the fee to be, actually in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. Mm-hmm. So this kind of feels correct to me, this bid. I had another question. Like, I know you guys were worried about the timing of this project, and that the other bidders you had reached out to, you had given them only a week to respond, but then we didn't see that on the we didn't see that in the board meeting last month. Did you stall to wait for the Tremco guys? Like, what was your think there?
I think we had to run it through the committee first.
Oh, I see. You wanted to bring it back here.
Yeah, I wanted to discuss it at the committee level before making a recommendation for the committee members to discuss it, to make a recommendation to the board.
I see. So why didn't you give the other bidders more time? I mean, did you ever hear back from the two architects that were on the list?
I didn't hear anything from them at all.
Yeah, they didn't say anything about why they didn't bid. Okay.
I didn't get any response at all from anybody except for these other two.
Yeah, I would say in the future, like, if we're planning to wait a whole month, we might as well give bidders more time, because then we're more likely to get additional bids. Although, I mean, I don't know.
We did reach out to them and said if they had any, concerns or questions or anything to let us know, with the time frame or anything like that. So
I see.
Like Carbon Engineering was fine on the time frame submitting the proposal. So I don't know if that deterred anybody from putting in or not. I know what you're referencing. So yeah, I'm not sure if that time frame, but yeah, I think I think that's something to consider moving forward for sure.
Okay. I mean, is it your recommendation to go with this Tremco contract? Is that your thought?
I think, given the scope, to me, it's a pretty simple roof replacement, with shingles and everything else. And there will be, when we sit down and meet with them, some additional add-ons if needed, like I mentioned, rain gutters, downspouts, etc. So I think given that in the relationship we have with Tremco, given they have a warranty for a high school and the middle school, the high school building in particular, I think this makes more sense than spending $17,000 or $21,000 just to have an engineer come in and design everything and then oversee it, as opposed to spending a third of that on this.
This is their specialty also. I mean, this is what they do.
Correct. And they even gave recommendations on, time frame on when they felt would be better to bid it out. We told them that we want it done before the winter. We didn't want snow sitting on it, you know what I mean, and everything. So they recommended that the early fall might be the best time to, prepare everything late summer and then have the scope of work in, early fall. That seems to be, he recommended a time frame where we might get the best prices and the most interest.
Right. So another question, kind of a little bit of a divergence. I mean, I think we've gotten some emails from Dave Bradley talking about this state program, and I don't know a lot about it. I mean, what do you know, Kyle? Do you tell me what Dave's trying to tell us?
JJ and I work together on this, and there's some state contractors that are approved on there. And JJ could touch more on this as to what the system is and everything that you go through it. I know it's a recommendation and they have to apply to be on the list and be accredited to be on the state list. So I don't know if there's anything as far as more that you're looking for on it.
I don't know. I mean, I just know that Dave is saying that we could save money, blah, 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 but I don't understand a lot about what he's talking about. And I thought, you know, maybe you guys could shed some light on what he's trying to tell us.
I think the issue with this project is it has to be a bid project because of the scope and the cost. There is organizations on the state bid list that may, you know, be able to complete the project. I'm not sure what group or what, because there's CoStars, there's PEPM, there's different organizations up there. So I'm not sure exactly what, you know, group he's referring to. However, I do know in the past we looked at, and I believe it was for fencing, Kyle, if I remember correctly, breaking up scope of jobs, whether it be purchasing the equipment or the material separately, and then, you know, doing it as far as a bid or RFP type thing. And because of the estimated cost of the project, you're not really allowed to break it because of the, you know, there's state rules and state and federal guidelines, and also prevailing wage comes in. But I'm not, other than that, I'm not exactly sure what, you know, Mr. Bradley was talking about. I mean, we could, you know, he is on the call, so we could ask him to.
Yeah, I mean, he has his boundaries now, I see.
Yeah, we can do that now. I'm okay if everyone else, just for clarification.
Yeah, I'd like to know what he's talking about.
Mr. Bradley?
Dave, you're muted, it looks like. There you go.
Yeah, I was muted by the host. But anyway, so...
no, you were not, Mr. Bradley, so I'd like you explain what you need to explain. You don't have to add your additional comments.
Well, my additional comments, Mr. Cleaver, come with my information. And yes, I was muted on the call. I could not participate until such time that the host would allow me to participate. But anyway, not like it was an open meeting or anything, you know, like an open meeting law under Sunshine Act, where prior to Kyle's recommendation, we were supposed to have a right to speak. But so first of all, let's back up.
Mr. Bradley.
Yeah, so let's back up. Can you please scroll back up to the beginning of the bids that you were awarded? And I got to ask the question, when you have an agenda and you have this information, why was this not presented on the website so we could all read it, rather than the way you're scrolling through it is nearly impossible to read?
I believe the attachments were on the
They were not.
site. Mr. Spots, were they on the...
How do you believe that to be if you don't have access and don't review it and don't look at it? I mean, I just find it untrustworthy, sir. I find it untrustworthy. Anyway, so here's what I did. I saw that you guys were out hiring or attempting to bid and hire additional people for a maintenance project, including an engineering firm. And I agree that there's a lot of responsibility here, and the ability of our staff to be able to do this might not be within their core competency. However, a roofing project is a pretty straightforward project in the state of Pennsylvania. There's a guy by the name of Jesse Fry, F-R-Y. He's the Chief, Division of School Facilities, Bureau of Budget and Fiscal Management for the Pennsylvania Department of Education, located at 330 Market Street, Harrisburg. I reached out to him because he is our liaison. He's the guy that we should be speaking to on a regular basis, rather than talking to other people, because the state of Pennsylvania has already recognized that for every district to individually go out and do these sideline shenanigans for buying a roof doesn't make sense. It's an inefficient use of taxpayer funds. So if you talk to Jesse, not only does he highly recommend that you wait until June so that the Act 70 funding can come through, that this roofing project can be funded partially by the state. There's also a co-stars program that he recommends reviewing, which apparently this administration did not do, despite the fact that this board instructed the administration to do this. So the co-stars program allows you to buy the roofing and have authorized contractors, and those contractors should then bid that out, and they have a automatic fee you can choose from and negotiate and discuss with, saving you all this extra money that you're trying to give to Barry Ison. It doesn't make sense to not use the state program. It doesn't make sense not to collect the information. It also doesn't make sense that if you have a shingle roof that I believe was put on somewhere around the 94, 95 year range. Is that correct, Kyle?
It's the original roof from the construction of that building.
And what year was that building constructed and what year was the roof put on?
I don't know off the top of my head. I wasn't the building and ground supervisor at that time period.
Yeah, no problem. But when you walked in the building of the administration, are you in there now or are you remote?
I am in the high school right now.
In high school. Okay. So when you walk in the administration building, there's a big keystone that says 1995. It's there every day you walk in. I mean, it's pretty understandable that building was built somewhere around 1995. If you look at the feasibility study that I presented to you, it shows that the building construction started in 1994. And on that feasibility study that was, as little as 6 years ago, the roof was not even mentioned. So are we having trouble with this roof currently?
It's been well documented that roof leaks.
Okay, and the maintenance on that roof, this less than 25 year, or close to 25-year-old shingle roof is starting to leak. Was maintenance done on it? Was regular maintenance done on it? Was there a storm event that occurred? Is there insurance that we're looking at for the fact that this roof is being pulled out of service about 5 to 10 years early?
I am not well aware of any maintenance that has occurred prior to my taking over here the responsibilities. I can't speak to what occurred when I was not responsible for this position.
Yeah, but you see, we can't really use that as an excuse, Kyle. We're not allowed to say, I don't know what year this building was. If it's your responsibility.
I did not say I don't know what year that building was. I told you that the roof was put on at the construction of that building.
Right.
That's what my quote was. So please don't misquote me.
Right. Then I asked you what year it was and you didn't know. But the point is that you have to know. You have to do the research. You have to pull in that data.
You're asking me to know what year a building was constructed when there's a giant sign that says the year of the construction of the building.
Right. So that's what we're asking.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. So the idea is that you want to know how
to the process, the discussion.
I am talking about the process. So the process is efficiently using taxpayers' funds to build and maintain buildings for the use of education, and the good taxpayers of 1995 physically consumed dollars, put it on a mortgage. We're still paying for it, and you own an administration building, and we have the responsibility to maintain it. And if you're going to maintain it, you have to first of all look at whether it's repair or replacement. And with a roof that has an expected life of another 5 to 10 years for the entire roof, you don't throw away the rest of the roof if a section of it is bad. That's not logical. It's not rational in the consumption of dollars, unless, of course, they're not your dollars. So the first thing you need to look at is whether or not the entire roof needs to be replaced or a section of the roof needs to be replaced, because you still have multiple years left on the rest of that asphalt shingle roof. If it's depending on it could be another 10 years on the rest of that roof. However, let's pretend for just a moment that you're going to say, look, I don't care about the useful life of the roof. I don't care about maintaining. I don't care about efficiency. I don't care about any of these things. It's not my money. I'm just going to buy a new one. At which point, at least if you're going to buy a new one, Jesse Fry, the Division of School Facilities, Bureau of Budget and Fiscal Management for the Department of Education, should be consulted by our team. And that guy, when he's consulted by our team, should be asked the same questions. What's the life expectancy? How much can I do repairs? Can I do partials? Can I do the full? If I'm going to buy roofing material in the state of Pennsylvania, where we have roofing manufacturers in the state of Pennsylvania that score special corporate contracts with the state of Pennsylvania, because there's a lot of roofs that governments need, and we're just one of those governments, that we should review that. The fact that you did not go down this path, I think, is irresponsible. CoStars is a good part of it. It's on there. Once you reach out to them, you then also end up coming in contact with a guy by the name of Frank Pellegrino, who's commercial roofing solutions for the manufacturer of these devices. And easily, you write a note to him and he instantly responds. I don't understand why the shenanigans of the Lehighton Area School District repeatedly refuse to use best practices, to use standard building management processes, and fail to understand the responsibility to maintain these roofs so they don't leak, especially after only 25 years of service, when asphalt roofs are 30 and 40-year devices that was purchased. We're not getting the life out of it. So I believe that this whole thing should be pushed until at least June, when the funding for X70 comes through. And that's the advice of Jesse Fry, not just myself, but I tend to understand that process. I agree with Joy that when you bid something, that you should at least give people the opportunity to bid. And if they don't respond, it is the job of the administration to encourage a response, whether it's because you don't give them enough time or whether it's not, you don't have a well-defined scope. These are important functions of the maintenance program for an individual education unit. There's maintenance programs already in place with a pool of candidates. So this leak that we have in the roof, why is the entire 17,000 feet need to be replaced if you have a leak somewhere in this roof? Or is the entire roof leaking?
There is areas throughout the building that are leaking, and it's been well documented and discussed at these meetings, Mr. Bradley.
Yeah, so the question is, why aren't they being repaired?
We did have someone come in and review the complete roof, look at bad spots throughout the roof, and again, it's at the end of its life cycle, and they are recommending a full replacement because there is also some underlayment that may need to be.
So do we have documentation that show the type of shingles that we bought? Hold on, do we have documentation, and was it shared with this committee for the identical part that was placed on this roof and its expected life? Which model shingle, and what was the manufacturer of the shingle that we have, and what was its expected life?
We do not.
Okay, why wouldn't we have kept those records?
I was not here in 1990.
I know everyone gets to make this excuse that they weren't here. And maybe it's time to keep shuffling the people through because they're going to need that excuse again. But the reality is the school was here. The administration of the school was here. Rita was probably on the board back then. She was here. She's still here now. These documents need to be retained within the district. This is standard operating procedure for anyone maintaining a building. You're going to need to know the make, model, and part numbers of the things that you have that you're trying to maintain. You're not applying common sense. Now, you can shuffle it all you like, but the reality is this is the wrong path. This is not the economical, responsible path. And I think you need to shut this stuff down. I mean, it's wrong the way you're doing it. You should at least look at CoStars. I mean, the fact that you didn't, you should at least call Jesse Fry. You should at least talk to Frank Pellegrino. I mean, you're spending thousands of dollars here. And most roofing contractors will have their own ability to have an architect or have a design team or an engineering team, or even the manufacturer of the roof will have that design team and engineering team to specify your process and best practices, and they can pitch to the board, and that's free. That's normally technical support and customer service. You don't need to hire $6,000 to have a second firm tell you what the manufacturer of the different choices that you have can tell you. I mean, you can definitely garner what we call free consulting just by talking to the suppliers of the goods that you are expected to purchase. And I'll add one more comment to this insanity that I'm listening to on this meeting. You do not have a right to go over budget, guys. You have to move the money first. You have to pull the money from somewhere else. I understand the concept that this is a government agency, and if there's leftover money in one budget, it's use or lose. But no, we are so far behind in our budget. If you did not consume it in a certain area, you should leave it behind for the general fund for areas within that budget. And each section of the budget, including buildings and maintenance, should be properly reviewed, budgeted, and then managed. And if a mistake was made, it should be corrected prior to spending the money. You don't have the right to spend it. Section code of 609 says that would be illegal.
Any more
Now,
comments?
yes, I have one more comment. Hold on, stop. You guys are interrupted. So the question is, Mr. Cleaver, the question is, on the feasibility study back in 2011 and 2014, there was a list of items. I sent this list to the board days ago, about a week ago. And last week, when I sent that email and described the things that were on the board, they were supposed to be identified as to whether any of those were done, including the ones that were required. Steve and Wayne and Joy, you're the board members. I'm asking you to instruct your administration, your subordinate administration, to identify which items on that feasibility study were done or not done so that we can better maintain these buildings, because it looks like if we don't maintain the buildings, it's a costly mistake. It's an error of omission. The lack of maintenance can cost you more than the cost of the maintenance itself. And it's that understanding, the standard building maintenance algorithm, that needs to be applied. And apparently, we are not applying that common competency within this district. It's obvious. Joy, I'll defer to you, Wayne and Steve. But Steve, did any of these things get done in that feasibility study? Steve, will you answer? Or are you just gonna cower behind the fact that you don't know and probably didn't read it, and maybe don't even still have a copy of it? How about you, Unky Wayne? Are you going to look at this at all?
Okay,
Did you see it? Did you see it, Wayne? No, I'm asking Wayne. Unky Wayne, I want to know whether or not, I would like to know whether or not the feasibility study was done.
The original roof from 1994, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
So to me, this makes sense to replace the roof. I do have to agree with Dave in the one part that it would be really nice to, if we had the original documentation of what that roof was, just so that we could see, what was the predicted life cycle, right? Because there are 20-year, 30-year, 50-year roof types. It would be nice for us to know. But I understand, as you said, Mr. Cleaver, that there's multiple leaks throughout the building. And so to me, replacement versus repair makes sense.
And given the time frame of the leaks, I'm assuming that the shingles are 30 years old, because usually around the 25-year mark is when you start seeing the necessity to repair a 30-year shingle roof. So, and that puts us right around just past the 25-year mark.
Will we have multiple leaks,
So
guys? You have multiple leaks.
The leaks in multiple areas, that it's a 30-year shingled roof without having that documentation available.
And again, we did also have an individual go through, oversee it, and I believe we even had that where they talked about the estimate. I believe, Joy, you mentioned too about the option of a metal roof too, because in that they discussed that metal roof would be more than the shingle roof. So that document has occurred and was reviewed as well.
Yeah, that's interesting to know. I know on some projects the metal roof has come in cheaper, but it's dependent on a lot of factors.
And the thing is too, with bidding it out as well, you also have the option of putting in alternates, and that could be we could put as many alternates into it as we want, and then have a la carte type thing. Okay, do we think gutters need to be replaced? Do they not? Those type of things as well.
Yeah, I think alternates is a really good idea. Then when you bid it out, we'll have the benefit of the different bidders, their personal experience to bring ideas to the table that maybe we didn't think of, that could be money savers or potentially maintenance savers going forward, right? Like maybe we do end up spending a little bit more to do a different idea, but that will increase the longevity of the roof.
Yep.
I see Barbeau's raised her hands, and it's up to the discretion of others if they want to hear what she has to say. I don't know that she's had comments on this topic before.
I know we allowed Mr. Bradley, so I think it'd be fair for Ms. Bose also. Ms. Bose?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I joined late, so I missed a great deal. My understanding is that a quality metal roof lasts far longer than a shingled roof. But as far as replacing the roof, my greatest concern with multiple leaks is that there will be mold, and mold remediation is extremely expensive. So I think getting it done sooner rather than later would be a good idea. Certainly you should review whatever information on the original roof that you can find. I would hope that that would have been retained as it was construction, but I really think you need to move forward with this. I didn't see the part about, it just has Barry Isid Associates up.
Say, Barb, can I piggyback on something you just said before we diverge?
Sure.
You brought up the idea of mold, and Kyle, I assume there's like an access to get into the truss space. Is that true? In the administration building, where someone can get up into the attic, if you will.
Yeah, that is correct. There's access to the upper portion because we have security systems and everything. A lot of the wires for the HVAC and everything's up there.
Great. Has anyone been up there recently? I mean, I think if the answer is no, I think maybe just Kyle before
our staff has been up there.
Okay, and have they seen mold?
Not at this point, no.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, Barb, go ahead.
Anyway, I had emailed Mr. Spots, and he had said that there was another bid on the design submitted, but I missed that part of the meeting.
Right, there was 3, Ms. Bose. I'll scroll down. There was also Carbon Engineering as well. Did submit a proposal, and their cost came to a total of $17,500. You could see there. And then in addition, we reached out to Tremco, who responded through their state purchasing group, right, Kyle?
Yes, they were listed on there, and we reached out to them.
They are here for much less cost of $6,750. So those were the 3 that we received, Ms. Rose.
Okay, and Tremco is the one that did our school roofs, or we currently contract with, correct?
Right, they have our high school roof, and they also we were contracted with them over the years for upkeep and maintenance through a maintenance program that they offered as well.
And have we been happy with their response and their work?
I don't want to speak for Kyle, but I know for myself, I feel, we have been extremely satisfied with their roof.
Yeah, anytime we've had an issue with the high school in particular, which is what they have under warranty, they're very responsive, and they visit in a timely fashion, and even coordinating with them, that they've been good to deal with on this end, just getting the proposal, and they were quick. I think we reached out to them within a couple of days. They were on site in the rain, looking at the roof. So.
Okay, so then wouldn't common sense say we should go with their proposal? It's far cheaper, and that we could actually spend maybe a little more on the roof once it's bid out to get a longer shelf life, as it were, and if necessary. And since everyone's been pretty much happy with their work, it seems to me to be a no-brainer to go with their proposal as long as it meets the standards that we need. And that's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Spots, I'll turn it back over to you.
Is there anybody that wants to make a recommendation and take to the board on any of these proposals?
Yeah, Kyle, I'm fine with Tremco. They've always honored their warranty. And like you said, they've always been there when you needed them. So Tremco's fine with me.
Yep,
This
thanks,
is
Wayne.
Steve. Oh, sorry, Joey, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, thanks, Wayne. I think we're all on the same page, but go ahead, Steve, you can let us know.
My response is, I'm going with your recommendation, Joey. You have more of a background on this than any of us. So I'm leaning toward you to help me as far as the decision. If you're saying you believe Tremco was the best, that's fine with me. I do have a stupid question, and I truly believe it is. We were talking about metal roofs and such. Could we not have a metal roof, say, on the administration side and shingles on the back side where I'll say the maintenance department and that works and the supplies that come in?
Yeah. Hey, Steve, I'll
Can
answer
we
that.
split it? Can we split it is what I'm asking.
Correct. That would not be possible because that would void any warranty. Nobody would, like it's a single system kind of thing. And if you tried to splice two together, I'm pretty sure it would void any warranty for either one of the systems.
Yeah, I think if we're doing one, we got to do it throughout the whole.
Well, thank you very much for that answer. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks, Steve, for the vote of confidence. I think with all of us, all the banter we've heard recently about the library, I think we all know that even something as little as $20,000 is getting a lot of people worked up right now in the community. So I'm glad we bid this out. And I think even though Tremco's cheaper, some people might say like, oh, wow, maybe we're getting less quality or we're getting less service. But I think the reason that they would be cheaper is because this is their wheelhouse. This is what they do every day. And these other engineering companies, it's only going to be a smaller portion of the main work that they do. So Tremco is just going to be super, super efficient.
I got my answers. Thank you.
Okay, we will pass this recommendation on from the committee to the board for their next meeting then. Thank you. I appreciate the discussion on that. Moving on, old business, the transformer at the middle school football field. Speaking to the borough, the recommendation from the borough is to go with the original quote to replace it. The original quote was the $13,560 for the transformer, labor and equipment $4,806, and crane rental of $2,400 with a $250 permit fee. Knowing that those are estimated costs given the volatility of the construction costs and everything right now going on. So that is. The borough reached out to Lonnie last week or 2 weeks ago, and he told me that the price as of now is still the same for that. And they would, as of now, there's no transformers available, so they would have to basically build one wherever the transformers come from that the borough orders. So that's the cost that we're looking at right now. Talking to our staff, we do feel comfortable that we could do the disconnect switch ourselves. So there would be no cost on repairing that area. It would just be the cost of the transformer and all the equipment needed to get that established. And again, those prices are the original costs that the borough supplied to us to order the transformer and ship it and get it. There was one available in Kentucky, but that has since been sold. So now, unless one becomes available, they would have to build one, and that's the cost to do that.
Hey, Kyle, this is Joy. We discussed this a little bit last time, and I think you're just kind of looping around and confirming the follow-up with the borough, and I was okay with all this concept after we talked about it.
Okay, so if the committee's good with it, I'll pass on a motion by the committee to move forward. Again, the costs are going to be listed as estimated prices in the motion because of the unknown with construction costs and et cetera going on right now.
Fine with me, Kyle.
Okay. All right. So moving on to the high school. High school, there's not really much going on right now. School year is winding down. We got about a month to go, but the high school is in pretty good shape. The middle school, we have one of the motors in the cooling tower. We just has a heater built into the system, and we just have to. We are getting HD lines to wire that heater in the motor. We have to run some wiring throughout the building that our guys are going to help with, but it's just a connect to the motor. That way, if their moisture gets in, the heater turns on and helps keep the motor dried out. It's the original design of those cooling towers. The motors did not have the heater in it, but we replaced one previously, and we need to wire that heater up to keep it from getting moisture inside the motor. So that's one of what's going on at that building. Everything else though is in pretty good shape. Elementary center, we had the presentation by Mr. Sevlin last meeting. Our staff took care of all the requests that they needed, and I know they've been working in the building and outside the building to beautify the areas. The only thing we're waiting on is, I know Mr. Sullivan did write a letter to Lowe's looking for a donation of mulch. So we have not received mulch yet. We are still waiting a response on that before we go out and purchase mulch. We would need a large amount of mulch given the areas, the 4 beds in the back, and then the large area up front, and then along the side of the buildings as well. Would all need mulch. So before we pursue purchasing that, we are gonna, wait to see if Lowe's or any other local vendors will assist us with the mulch. But I know from my kids, I have 2 children that are in that building, and they really enjoyed assisting with the project. I know they told me in the mornings they had to take gloves in and everything else to help pick up, garbage and weed and so on and so forth. So I know that was a great opportunity, an idea that they started in that building, and the kids and the staff really have taken ownership of it. So I wanted to follow up with the committee on that to provide an update. Elementary center, we have some additional repairs at the elementary center that we need to be done. The cooling tower in there, the thermostat has gone in there, so we need to replace that. And these are all not covered by warranty. The warranty and these fixes has since expired. So thermostat needs to be fixed in the cooling tower. That would become an issue in the winter if we get below freezing and the heating mechanism is unable to kick on because of the thermostat not working. So we will need to get that fixed. So we are going to get a quote from HD Lines to work on that. There is a gas shutoff valve that will need to be replaced and repiped in that building. That'll be done once there is no issues in the building now with it, but it'll need to be done once school's out, because we will need to, obviously shut off gas to that area to do that fix. So that'll be done probably as soon as we can once school is done. So maybe late June in that one. And then there is a actuator that have failed on a source water chiller that will need to be replaced in that building as well. So those totals are about $5,500 in repairs that are going to be needed for that building. Athletic fields and grounds update. We had our large Kubota tractor had met its needed inspection. I believe it was the 1,500 hour mark on that unit. So we had to send it out to Ag Industrial to get serviced, which is the recommendations on the manual for that tractor. So that tractor has just been serviced, looked over per the manufacturers, which is important to keep those, equipment and assets running to peak performance. And also we are dealing with our vehicle inspections at this point. So far, everything is passed inspection that we needed to with minimal work needed. I believe one of our vehicles needed new brakes, front brakes on them. I think it was one of the trucks, but other than that, it's just been kind of inspections going on for those units. New business, there is, we should be getting a posting soon to pass out for the summer personnel through the partnership that the board agreed upon the last meeting. I don't think we got it yet from Janine, but once all that stuff is finalized, that'll go out to hire staff. And because the agreement has been established by the board, the partnership hires the individuals. So upon their hiring, they could start right away as long as all their clearances and stuff are on file on our end, if needed. So that'll be good. And then I know Ed is developing or has developed an RFP for the disposal recycling service that will expire at the end of June. So we will look hopefully to have something for the committee at the June meeting to give a recommendation to the board on a new or continued recycling disposal service for the district. But our current contract with Waste Management was a 3-year deal and expires at the end of the next month. And that is all I have. Anybody have any questions or additional comments on the agenda?
Questions? Can you tell me where we are with what I asked for to be looked at and I'll say fixed at this particular time? What did we do with any of that list that I presented last month?
Okay, so the garbage cans were distributed in all the fields. There was repair work done on the warning track. We have filled out the paperwork for surplus on the one Kubota mower that's sitting out by the admin and the van that has not passed inspection. The elementary center, we mentioned about the outside work in the buildings. Mr. Cleaver and I did discuss the limb that was the dead limb from the baseball field, but if you look at it, it's not really dead. It looks dead, but there are branches that are growing off of it. So we decided not to do anything with it at that point. And then, the other stuff was just, grass cutting and trash and leaf pickup, which is an ongoing battle given the busyness of the springtime. And, this is our last week of spring sports. So I would hope that, there'll be a more emphasis focus on the grounds area once we don't have to take care of the ball fields as frequent. Yesterday we spent, both guys spent 4 or 5 hours on fields just getting them ready because of the amount of rain. And then we couldn't even play on the field yesterday. So there's just some needed time on those areas to get them ready when the weather doesn't cooperate. So I believe that's your whole list that you initiated last meeting. So that was the status of that work.
Let me say just my feelings on this. I think we did a very poor job. Those bleachers out beyond left field, the grass is growing up between the bleachers. I find this sad to say. It looks horrible, but this is what we've been doing for the last couple of years, and I'll say nothing. We don't do anything. The leaves are still underneath the bleachers, tons of leaves. There's leaves to the left side of it. Going down the bank, unsafe area, it's washed out there. We don't look around. Somebody, I'll say right from the top, administration's got to get up and take some people by the hand and say, this is what you have to do. I'm sorry, but at this point, I'm more than angry with this because a lot of these people have been doing this for multiple years. This job did not change from year to year, and we just have to wait for Mr. Spots or whoever to come and say, oh, you have to do this or oh, you have to do that. These are grown adults that just sit there and wait for someone to tell them what to do. And I feel if at this point, if you have to be told and led by the hand every time, I think it's time you start thinking about either another position in the district or just plain moving on. I'll give you a good example. Go around the middle school right now. The weeds around that building are between 2 and 3 feet high. How horrible is this? We have people going in and out that building, parents and other people just on regular walks, and they see this. Where the cooling tower is at the middle school, we have tons of leaves. We don't have garbage bags that we can clean up these leaves and get rid of them. This could also be where someone walks by and decides to flick their cigarette, not thinking, now we have these leaves on fire, and maybe we have something even more disastrous that can happen. We're just sitting there. We're not doing our jobs. And I'm saying right from the top, somebody has to get out there maybe once a week and examine what's going on. I asked last month about cutting the grass along Mahoning Street. Look at every signpost. We didn't weed whack. We didn't do anything around any of those signs. Where we can sit on the tractor, pardon me, and cut the grass, that's it. When it comes to, I don't know if we're waiting for summer help, but that doesn't make it with me, it doesn't make it with the public when we go by there and we see this. So, yeah, I'm pulling off, but I'm really, really disgusted with the attitude of, oh, well, so what? We'll do it at some point in time. My answer right now is will be. Thank you.
Say, Steve, I'll just to kind of support you. I mean, once again, like you trust me where I'm an expert. I think this is also an area where you're an expert. I've been on this committee for 3 years now. And I would say, you know, this is a common theme. I mean, you bring this up at every one of our committee meetings, or maybe every other. And what I'm hearing from you is that, you know, this is your area of expertise, and you're not thinking that the staff is meeting, you know, your quality, your standard of quality. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying I'm an expert, believe me, but when you have 1 month to cut stuff and do things, and it's still the same way the next month, I'm missing it. Why isn't, and yes, we did have rain, but we also had days where it looked like rain and it didn't. We can be out there and doing some of this stuff instead of, I really don't know what we're doing. It's just a bad situation. We gotta be more on our A game, and I'll be crude right now. Now we're going to be coming into a contract with support personnel, and some of these same people that don't seem to want to do their job will be sitting there and asking for and expecting to get a nice raise, and it's a bad thing with union because everyone gets the same salary increase, and I just feel that that's wrong. If you don't do your job, you shouldn't get paid extra for it and say, oh, Steve didn't do this, but he got the same salary as I, and I'm doing a much better job. I think you should be paid for what you do, and not sit there and rely on unions to help us get through, and everybody gets that nice raise or whatever they get. So, okay, that's it. I'm going to run on.
All right, any other comments on the agenda or anything?
we do have public request comments. Mr. Bradley?
Yeah, I got 2 or 3 things real quick. I sent a list of the administration building feasibility study of the things that were supposed to be done, required to be done, recommended to be done, and some luxuries of things that wanted to be done. I'm looking for an update as to whether or not those things were or were not done. And then to add on to Steve's comments, I want to make basically a very big picture view that Steve, you're the boss in this district. The board is the boss. We have a subordinate administration that takes the task. It's obvious from the conversation that the managerial responsibility of the board to the administration is failing. There's a process called Basic Asset Management Principles. And I think that it shows from the diatribe that you provided, the rant about that you're frustrated that you're asking for things to be done and then they're not being done. Standard asset management is a prioritization of those things that need to be done. The management decides what needs to be done. They delegate it to the administration, and then they ensure that they get them done. If not, you are correct. It's time to replace the people responsible for doing the task. That's your job as the board. You seem to be taking the passive position to beg your employees to do a job that needs to be done. That's a failure, Steve. It's your responsibility. You are the director. You are elected. You have the authority. You're the only one of 9 that has that authority. I think we need to have this Buildings and Grounds Committee highly recommend to the board, and they should take public comment first, of whether or not this administration needs to be educated on basic asset management and the process therein, where a schedule is created of the things that need to be done, checks and balances. You know, whether it's the grass gets cut or the leaves get raked. I agree. You have fire risks. I agree. You have an image issue of people walking around thinking that school gets paid all that money and they can't even cut the grass, or they can't even kill the weeds, or they can't even cut the grass or the weeds. And yet there's ordinances within the community that require the homeowner to do the same thing. So, Steve, it's really on you. You got to change your idea. You can't rubber stamp this board. You can't be a blind trusting person that says, "Oh, I want you to do this," and then you beg them to do it and they don't do it. It's spiteful. You need to take the responsibility as a board. We as a board should list all the things that need to be done, including, like in that feasibility study, things that were required to be done by an expert, and whether or not they are not done. If not, they cost you tons of money. Look at this roof project. You're only 25 years in on a shingle roof. That's sad. That's really sad. And if you have leaks that are going on that are not being repaired, I have to question why. At the time, you had $13 million in the bank, right? You still had millions of dollars left over. If you're not going to fix a leak in a roof, that's irresponsible. Where's that money going instead of maintaining these buildings? So there's my rant to you. Steve, you have a job to do. You're the boss. Wayne, Unky Wayne, man, you got to stand up. You can't sit there passively whining away. You can't sit there passively whining away. Joy has expertise in this regard. Mr. Cleaver has the responsibility to make sure this gets done.
Everybody.
Boy, it's funny how you guys shut that all down.
Chance to speak.
Yeah, right.
Our next meeting will be June 8th. So look forward to seeing everybody there. I appreciate everybody's correspondence today and working together to get some of these motions approved by the committee onto the board so we can keep moving on some items. So thank you for everyone's attendance and have a great day.